Today, we're talking about one of the greatest feuds in professional wrestling. It's been being told now for about 15 years. It's a feud that goes all the way back to 2014. It's a feud that we are currently encircled in right now in the WWE, and it is a feud, in my opinion, that not only needs closure, but it needs to end. And it needs to end in 2025, maybe early 2026, and that is the feud between Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. Two guys, two of the biggest stars that come out of WWE's developmental system in OVW and NXT back in 2012 when they debuted in a group together known as The Shield. They took out John Cena. They took out the Ryback at Survivor Series 2013. I think it was 2012. Survivor Series 2012 in Indianapolis, Indiana, to help then WWE champion CM Punk. Paul Heyman was the guy with CM Punk at that point. Paul Heyman brought Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and then Dean Ambrose, who we now know as Jon Moxley in AEW, into the WWE in a trio known as The Shield. And The Shield ran roughshod over WWE for about 2 years after that. The Shield was the most dominant trio in WWE history. Reigns, Rollins, and Ambrose. They won gold. Reigns and Rollins were the tag team champions for a long time. Dean Ambrose was the United States champion for a long time, almost a year to be exact. Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins had more history together before they ended up turning on each other, before any other duo in WWE history. Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns as the WWE Tag Team Champions. They were the tag team champions for, I want to say, at least 6 months, 6, 7, 8, 9 months before they dropped the titles to, believe it or not, Cody Rhodes and Goldust and Dusty Rhodes, which is crazy to think about looking back at it 12 years later, that Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins are three of WWE's biggest megastars today, and they had a WWE tag team match in the mid-card back in 2013 at WWE Battleground, where Cody Rhodes infamously hit the best crossroads he's ever hit in his entire life on Seth Rollins for a historic and monumental and emotional win for the entire Rhodes family that night, when Cody Rhodes pinned Seth Rollins to win the tag team titles for Rhodes and Goldust, with Dusty celebrating. That was one of Dusty Rhodes' final TV appearances. It wasn't his final TV appearance, but it was one of his final TV appearances. And Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, and Roman Reigns got to share that moment together on the mid-card in the tag team division in 2013. I think Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton main evented that show, and the Authority was kind of the main storyline in WWE at that point. Triple H and Stephanie McMahon just turned heel. And it's crazy to think, just a few years later, they debuted. They had that match with Cody Rhodes and Goldust and the Rhodes family. They beat Randy Orton, Sheamus, and Big Show at WrestleMania 29. They beat Kane and Jesse James and Billy Gunn in the Road. What were they? They were part of DX, the New Age Outlaws. Pardon my French. The New Age Outlaws and Kane were defeated by The Shield, Reigns, Rollins, and Ambrose at WrestleMania 30, which then led to The Shield turning babyface. That's right. They were a heel faction for a year and a half, and then The Shield turns babyface after taking out Kane, and then the Authority the next night on Raw, on the Raw after WrestleMania, to defend Daniel Bryan. The Shield took out Triple H, they took out Kane, they took out Batista, and they took out Randy Orton, meaning that one of the greatest trios in WWE history had to reform to take on the current best trio in WWE history. It was The Shield versus Evolution in early 2014. Extreme Rules at the Prudential Center in Newark. Roman Reigns pinned Batista. They took care of The Shield. They had a rematch in I believe it was Falls Count Anywhere and an elimination match at WWE Payback in, I believe it was Chicago that night. And Reigns pinned Batista. Reigns also pinned Triple H. Or maybe Rollins. I think Rollins pinned Batista, Ambrose pinned Orton, and Reigns pinned Triple H. And that's how they did it. It was a great elimination tag team match between two of the greatest factions in WWE history. An all-out war between them. The next night on Raw, Dave Batista quits the WWE. Again, for the second time in 4 years. So now it's just Triple H and Randy Orton versus The Shield. But Triple H says the Authority always has a plan B. Because the Authority always wins. And he said, Plan B. There's always a Plan B. Reigns, Rollins, and Ambrose are in the ring. Rollins has a steel chair in the ring. Reigns and Ambrose step up towards Triple H and Randy Orton. Seth Rollins steps back and turns heel in probably the most shocking way I've ever seen it live, at least in the PG era, man. In 2014, they were as hot as can be as a babyface unit at that point. They just took down Evolution. They just took down the Authority. They are the 3 hottest stars in WWE at that point, and they decide to turn Seth Rollins heel. Didn't see it coming. I don't think a lot of people saw it coming. That is one of the greatest heel turns in the history of pro wrestling. Not one of the top 3, but definitely in the top 5. Seth Rollins hitting Roman Reigns in the back with a steel chair that night. And that began this whole Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins saga that we've seen over the past decade. I mean, Seth Rollins made sure that Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose never trusted any SOB ever again in their entire life. They joined the Stone Cold Steve Austin of DTA. Don't trust anybody. Seth Rollins would go on to win the Money in the Bank ladder match 3 weeks after doing that to The Shield. He would go on to win the WWE World Heavyweight Championship less than a year later after that turn against The Shield. Seth Rollins would go on to win Money in the Bank. Roman Reigns would go on to have a singles match against Randy Orton and beat him at SummerSlam. That was his biggest moment in 2014. Dean Ambrose would go on to feud with Seth Rollins. He would lose to him at SummerSlam. He'd lose to him at Hell in a Cell and then go on to face Bray Wyatt. Seth Rollins beat Dean Ambrose inside Hell in a Cell. He'd feud with John Cena. He'd feud with Brock Lesnar, of all people. Seth Rollins, John Cena, and Brock Lesnar would go on to have one of the greatest triple threat matches I think I've ever seen back in 2015 at the Royal Rumble in Philly. Everybody remembers that night as the night that Roman Reigns got booed out of the building, even with The Rock's endorsement. But that night had one of the greatest triple threat matches we've ever seen between 3 generational talents that all have insanely different styles. John Cena's got the 5 moves of doom. Brock Lesnar has the 2 moves of doom with the suplex and the F5. Seth Rollins is a 5-tool player at that point in time, ladies and gentlemen. He's got the strength, he's got the speed, he's got the agility, he's got the flexibility. He has what every independent fan wants to see in a professional wrestler, but he's got the mic skills, he has the slimy heel work. He was everything that WWE needed at that point, and he was still Mr. Money in the Bank, but Brock Lesnar was the WWE champion, so you're not cashing in on Brock Lesnar. But that night, Roman Reigns also wins the Royal Rumble, setting up a match between himself and Brock Lesnar after Brock Lesnar hit the F5 on Seth Rollins that night to win and retain the WWE Championship in that amazing triple threat match. So now we get Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. Randy Orton returns after Seth Rollins turned on Randy Orton, and the whole Authority turned on Randy Orton. That set up Seth Rollins versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania 31 while Brock Lesnar was taking on Roman Reigns. Seth Rollins would go on to lose at WrestleMania 31 to Randy Orton in the most spectacular way you could lose a match. I mean, he lost on paper. He lost the match. He got pinned 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring, but he took the most fabulous-looking RKO I think we've ever seen to this day, even 11 years later. Seth Rollins went for the curb stomp. Randy Orton took the stomp off the back of his neck, flipped Seth Rollins perfectly into an RKO in Santa Clara, California. It was shocking, it was unexpected, and it was just the most glorious thing you've ever seen in professional wrestling from 2 of the best technically gifted wrestlers that wrestling's ever graced us with Seth Rollins and Randy Orton. So Randy Orton wins the match, and now you're thinking, Seth Rollins lost against Randy Orton. That was cool. Greatest RKO of all time. He's probably not cashing in tonight. Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns goes about 30 minutes of Brock Lesnar's hitting suplex after suplex after suplex after suplex after suplex. Suplex City was born that night. Roman Reigns was getting his ass kicked by the Beast, only for Roman Reigns to mount a comeback. So that entire match was built for Brock Lesnar to look great and Roman Reigns to look like shit. And then towards the end, Roman Reigns busts up Brock Lesnar as he hits his head on the ring post. Roman Reigns then hits 5 Superman punches, hits him with 2 spears. Brock Lesnar still isn't taken out. Roman Reigns goes for another Superman punch. He's rallying as the big dog is rallying, looking to win his first ever WWE Championship and his first ever main event of WrestleMania. Brock Lesnar hits him with another F5, but doesn't have the strength to cover him. They're both just laying out in the middle of the ring, and again, was not expecting it. I don't know if a lot of people expected it. I sure as hell wasn't expecting it. Seth Rollins' music hits. Seth Rollins cashes in Money in the Bank to make it a triple threat match, the first ever cash-in the main event of WrestleMania to make it a triple threat. No one had ever done that at that point. People were confused. He's cashing in, but the match isn't over. What's going to happen? Lillian Garcia says Seth Rollins is cashing in his Money in the Bank contract. Therefore, this will now be a triple threat match. Seth Rollins dumps Roman Reigns out of the ring, curb stomps Brock Lesnar, tries to curb stomp him again. Lesnar goes for the F5 on Rollins. Reigns hits Lesnar with the spear, and all of a sudden you're like, this is it. What a perfect way to book this. In the main event of WrestleMania 31, where it kind of looked like whoever won this match, they were going to get booed. We were kind of sick of Lesnar being a part-time champion, but he had just defeated the Streak, so you couldn't really have him pinned, but nobody wanted Roman Reigns to be the guy yet, so everybody was booing him out of the building. They were trying to make him the next John Cena. We weren't ready. We proved that in Philadelphia at the Royal Rumble, and they were about to boo Roman Reigns winning that match. And then Seth Rollins comes out. Not only does he add spark into that match by cashing in the Money in the Bank contract in the main event of WrestleMania, but he doesn't have to pin the champion now because it's a triple threat match, which saves Brock Lesnar from getting pinned, because whoever pinned Brock Lesnar next would have been the next big guy in WWE. And obviously the next guy who pinned him, we all know, was Goldberg, so they wasted that anyways. But they protected Brock Lesnar while pinning Roman Reigns, which you knew was going to get a loud pop because the fans weren't ready for him yet. And it continued the story of Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, because he had just turned on Roman Reigns that year. Not only did he turn on him and break up the Shield, the man stole his thunder in the main event of WrestleMania by pinning him in the main event of WrestleMania and winning the WWE Championship, stealing Roman Reigns' moment after he fought valiantly to come back in that match against Brock Lesnar, only for his biggest rival in the business to swoop in as the slimy heel and cash in his briefcase and steal the match between Reigns and Lesnar and win his first ever WWE title in the main event of WrestleMania 31. Seth Rollins says he's never main evented Night 2 of WrestleMania. I beg to differ. He had one of the greatest moments to close WrestleMania in the history of the WWE when he defeated Lesnar and Reigns in the main event after cashing in. So after that, we really didn't have much closure between Rollins and Reigns. This was back in 2015. Rollins goes on to defend the title against Dean Ambrose, against Randy Orton, against Reigns, Rollins, and Orton in a fatal four-way. He defended it against Kane. He defended it against Brock Lesnar. He defended it against John Cena, Sting. They really threw the gauntlet at Seth Rollins, only to set up Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns for the WWE Championship in the main event of Survivor Series at 2015. Not a lot of people remember this. Seth Rollins was supposed to face Roman Reigns in the main event of Survivor Series in 2015, but Seth Rollins tore his ACL. Remember, he tore his ACL in a match against Kane, going for the belt buckle bomb, and he came down, landed on his knee wrong, and was out for 9 months after that. Seth Rollins had to forfeit the WWE Championship. So at Survivor Series in 2015, they had a tournament for the title, resulting in Roman Reigns versus Dean Ambrose for the WWE Championship. Roman Reigns would defeat Dean Ambrose, his brother, for the WWE Championship. And Roman Reigns would win his first ever WWE Championship, only to spear Triple H and have Sheamus cash in 5 minutes later. And Roman Reigns only held the title for 5 minutes and 15 seconds, infamously, for his first ever title reign. Sheamus was the WWE World Champion, as Roman Reigns was cashed in on not once, but twice in 2015 by Seth Rollins and Sheamus. Of course, he'd go on to win it back in Philadelphia, of all places, after Superman punching Vince McMahon and spearing Sheamus in a WWE title match on Raw. And it's crazy because they booed the hell out of him at the Royal Rumble in 2015 in Philadelphia, but they cheered the hell out of him when he won the WWE Championship in Philadelphia in December of 2015. He took out the boss, he took out the chairman, he took out Triple H. At TLC the night before, that set up Roman Reigns versus Triple H at WrestleMania. Remember, Roman Reigns was forced to defend the WWE Championship in the Royal Rumble match by Vince McMahon. Triple H was number 30, threw his ass over the top rope, and won the WWE title. He would then win the championship back from Triple H in the main event of WrestleMania 32 with Seth Rollins in a skybox somewhere saying, "This is disgusting, I can't watch this anymore." Not because Roman Reigns won the match, but because that should have been his WrestleMania main event, but he got hurt, and Roman Reigns took it from him. So, fast forward to Extreme Rules 2016, Seth Rollins makes his long-awaited return after 9 months. I believe it was shorter than 9 months, but he was gone for a long time rehabbing that torn ACL. Roman Reigns had successfully defended the WWE Championship against AJ Styles at Extreme Rules. I was there. I was sitting ringside. I got to touch Roman Reigns' back as he was coming through the crowd in that match against AJ Styles. He beats AJ Styles, and then out comes Seth Rollins. We all went bonkers, lost our shit. Seth Rollins just returned. It was unadvertised, unplanned, unsuspected, not expected at all. Seth Rollins hits Roman Reigns with the pedigree to end Extreme Rules 2016 and holds up his WWE Championship that he never lost. And that led to the match that we had yet to see one-on-one since the Shield broke up 2 years prior. Shane McMahon set it up, Seth Rollins versus the WWE Champion Roman Reigns for the title in the main event of Money in the Bank. We talk about all the time how Money in the Bank is an elite pay-per-view in WWE history. We had John Cena versus CM Punk 3 years prior to that. We had CM Punk and Daniel Bryan. We had, I believe, it was John Cena versus Mark Henry in 2013. Not as big of a match, but 2014... we had John Cena winning the WWE Championship. In 2015, we had Seth Rollins defending against Dean Ambrose in a ladder match, which was a big feud. And now we're getting Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins. Reigns versus Rollins, WrestleMania main event written all over it, but we're getting it at Money in the Bank. A great back-and-forth match with no interferences. And in a rare occurrence, the heel picks up a clean win on the babyface. The guy that they've been building, Roman Reigns, the next John Cena, the WWE Champion, loses his first ever match against Seth Rollins one-on-one for the WWE Championship, and Rollins wins his first match back in 9 months to reclaim the title he had never lost. His signature at the time was redesign, rebuild, and reclaim. Seth Rollins beats Roman Reigns with not one but two pedigrees to win that match, and wins back his title for about 2.5 minutes, because on that night, Dean Ambrose would win the Money in the Bank ladder match and cash in against Seth Rollins, giving him a taste of his own medicine. It's crazy. The first time Seth Rollins ever won the WWE Championship, he cashed in on his brother Roman Reigns. The first time Dean Ambrose ever won the WWE Championship, he cashed in on his brother Seth Rollins. And for the first time ever, I mean, it's crazy that all three members of the Shield, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose, were all WWE champion in a span of 5 minutes, all on the same night, and that night in Las Vegas, Nevada, at Money in the Bank. Historical night for the Shield, historical night for all three of those guys. That'd be the last Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins one-on-one match that we'd see in quite some time in a big scenario. We would see them fight on Raw one-on-one a few times as baby faces in like qualifying matches and gauntlet matches, which were all great. They were all fun, but they weren't big matches. Roman Reigns would go on, I believe he got suspended shortly after that, and that's why he lost the match, which was crazy, because I don't know if Roman Reigns would have lost that match to Seth Rollins if he hadn't failed a drug test and got suspended for a month. Seth Rollins won the title. They put the title on Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose would take the title SmackDown in the draft. Reigns and Rollins would continue to feud with the same people. It was Jericho and Owens and Strowman. I remember they were going after. That's when Reigns and Rollins were then both faces, so they were teaming up together in matches at that point. They were teaming up. I remember 2017 is when Dean Ambrose came back to Monday Night Raw, and Reigns was doing his own thing, but Rollins and Ambrose were teaming up again. They made up. They won the tag team titles from Sheamus and Cesaro. Reigns was doing his own thing with Braun Strowman at that point in time, still going after the Universal Championship, while Rollins and Reigns went after the Raw tag team titles. And then it was late 2017 when Reigns, Rollins, and Ambrose did the unthinkable. They reunited it as the Shield for the first time in 3 years. All three of those guys were babyfaces. They reunited the Shield to take on The Miz, Braun Strowman, Kane, Sheamus, Cesaro, Ziggler, Strowman, McIntyre. I believe that was 2018. So we had 2 stints of the Shield in 2017 and 2018 because they were all baby faces and they were all over. Reigns was the Universal Champion. Rollins was the Intercontinental Champion. Ambrose was then like slowly turning heel. He would turn on Seth Rollins the night that Roman Reigns announced that he had leukemia again. A very emotional moment for Reigns, Rollins, and Ambrose to stand up at the top of the stage and do the Shield, the fists in the middle. And that was an emotional night. There was a brief time period after Rollins turned on Reigns in the Shield in 2014 that they got back together and they were brothers again. 2017, 2018. And then in 2019, Reigns would come back. He would have his feud with McIntyre and Shane McMahon, kind of a forgettable era for Roman Reigns. Seth Rollins was the Universal Champion, beating Brock Lesnar not once but twice, feuding with the likes of AJ Styles, feuding with Bray Wyatt. And then it wasn't until 2022 that Reigns and Rollins would really be on the same screen again. It was past that COVID era, and Roman Reigns had come back and rebranded himself with Paul Heyman as the Tribal Chief. Seth Rollins was a heel, taking out Rey Mysterio's eye, taking on Dominic Mysterio in his first ever match in WWE's first ever one-on-one match. Seth Rollins was doing his own thing as the Monday Night Messiah. Roman Reigns was developing the Tribal Chief. He was in year one of his Universal title reign when Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, I believe, had a brief backstage segment on SmackDown, both as heels. So they weren't really bitter rivals again, but, they were both heels. They were both stuck in each other's craw. Seth Rollins would then go on to face Roman Reigns kind of in an unsuspected one-on-one match for the Universal Championship. It was a heel versus heel scenario, but they were both big stars, so it made sense. And Roman Reigns needed an opponent at the Royal Rumble because if you remember correctly, Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns were supposed to face each other. That was the feud going into WrestleMania 38 that ended up happening, champion versus champion. But the match was supposed to take place at WWE Day 1, which was a PLE at the time, on January 1st, 2022. But Roman Reigns got COVID, and Roman Reigns was still battling leukemia and taking medical treatment for leukemia. So he had to go home and rest. Brock Lesnar was supposed to win the Universal Championship that night, which is crazy that Brock Lesnar was going to dethrone Roman Reigns for that title a year and a half into his title reign, which ended up going another 3 years. Brock Lesnar would then go into the then fatal four-way match for the WWE Championship and beat Big E and pin Big E, who was the WWE Champion at the time, and win the WWE Championship. Now we have a WWE Champion, Brock Lesnar, facing Bobby Lashley for the WWE Championship, and Roman Reigns now needs an opponent for the Royal Rumble so that we can eventually get to the Brock Lesnar-Roman Reigns match at WrestleMania. So who are you going to put Roman Reigns against that's worthy of facing him at the Royal Rumble? Seth freaking Rollins, who didn't have a feud at that point. Seth Rollins was kind of floating around at that point, if you remember that WrestleMania season. He didn't really have an opponent going into WrestleMania. He had a mystery opponent at WrestleMania, which ended up being the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes' return to the WWE for the first time in 6 years. But Seth Rollins took on Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble in St. Louis, Missouri. Not only did he take on Roman Reigns, he came out in his Shield gear. He came out in the Shield theme because he was the Joker at that point. He was turning into the Visionary, but he wasn't quite there yet. He was just a guy who wore ridiculous suits and laughed like Heath Ledger's Joker. Seth Rollins comes out as a member of the Shield to mock Roman Reigns. They had, a great back-and-forth one-on-one match like they always do. And at the end, Roman Reigns did not beat Seth Rollins. Roman Reigns has never beaten Seth Rollins when it matters the most. He had to blast Seth Rollins in the back of his back with a steel chair. He told the story of when Roman got hit in the steel chair in the back by Seth Rollins back in 2014. 8 years later, Roman Reigns gets his revenge and beats the shit out of Seth Rollins with a steel chair. But he didn't beat Seth Rollins. Roman Reigns lost that match via disqualification after a great 4-star match with Seth Rollins. Lesnar goes on to win the Royal Rumble after Reigns screws him. You get Reigns versus Rollins, you get Reigns versus Lesnar, or you get Rhodes versus Rollins at WrestleMania 38. WrestleMania 39, Reigns defends the title against Cody. Seth Rollins goes one-on-one with Logan Paul. Their paths don't really cross. WrestleMania 40. That's when their paths start to cross because Reigns has been champion for 4 years at this point. Everybody's fed up with the bloodline, including Seth Rollins, who knows Roman Reigns better than anybody. He backs Cody Rhodes against not just Roman Reigns and the Tribal Chief and the terror run that the bloodline had, but now the bloodline has The Rock. The Rock comes back. He wants to face Roman Reigns. The crowd won't have it. We want Cody. So The Rock turns heel, and now The Rock's going up against Cody Rhodes. And then we get a tag team match with The Rock and Roman Reigns teaming up in the main event of Night 1 of WrestleMania to take on Seth freaking Rollins, the World Heavyweight Champion at that point, and Cody Rhodes. Remember, Seth Rollins had just won the brand new introduced World Heavyweight Championship that's supposed to pay homage to the WCW World Champion that was adopted by WWE. Big Gold, one of the most prestigious World Heavyweight Championship belts in WWE history. Roman Reigns called that belt the loser's bracket. He said, everybody that's gone after that title and the man holding that title lost to me. That's the B League. That's the loser's bracket. And he was right. Roman Reigns buried that title. However, he had never beaten Seth Rollins at that point in his career. And even on that night, The Rock pinned Cody Rhodes. Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins were not involved in the pinfall. The Rock and Roman Reigns defeated Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes in the main event of WrestleMania for sure. But Roman Reigns did not pin Seth Rollins. Those two had still not had their closure moment at WrestleMania, which is crazy to think about looking at it now. And we'll get to the WrestleMania 41 main event because that's just another layer in their story. Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins have faced each other 3 times in the main event of WrestleMania. WrestleMania 31, WrestleMania 40, and WrestleMania 41. Seth Rollins cashed in Money in the Bank in the main event of WrestleMania 31. It was Reigns, Rollins, and Lesnar. WrestleMania 40, it was Reigns and The Rock versus Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes. And then in the main event of WrestleMania 41, it was Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins versus CM Punk in Las Vegas in night 1 of WrestleMania on April 19th, 2025. That's crazy to think about that they've never had a one-on-one match at WrestleMania, but they've main evented WrestleMania together 3 times. The big moment wasn't even at WrestleMania 40 between them in this whole bloodline saga. It was night 2 of WrestleMania. Seth Rollins' music hits, but not Seth Rollins' music. The Shield's music hits. And the Shield, Seth Rollins comes out to take out The Rock, but Roman Reigns hits him with a Superman punch. And then again, after The Undertaker takes out The Rock, Roman Reigns has a chair in his hand and he could take out Cody Rhodes to continue his title reign. But he remembered the night that Seth Rollins destroyed the Shield 10 years before that. 10 years, almost to the day before that, Seth Rollins took a chair to Roman Reigns' back and turned on the Shield. Roman Reigns now had an opportunity with Seth Rollins wearing his Shield gear to take out Seth Rollins, and that's what he did. He took Seth Rollins out with a steel chair, hitting him in the back, and that allowed Cody Rhodes to hit 3 crossroads and win the WWE Championship and end a 4-year tyrant reign by Roman Reigns. All because of Seth freaking Rollins. And now you fast forward to WrestleMania 41. They're both embroiled in a blood feud, not just with themselves, but with CM Punk, who had returned, a year and a half before the main event of WrestleMania 41. Roman Reigns lost his wise man. Roman Reigns had to watch his wise man that loved him so much, Paul Heyman, walk CM Punk down to the ring because there was a favor involved. Seth Rollins was kind of the odd man out. Seth Rollins had been feuding with CM Punk throughout the entire winter. He had just gone face-to-face with Roman Reigns for the first time in the Royal Rumble since WrestleMania 40. He had taken Roman Reigns out with multiple curb stomps at the Royal Rumble. Roman Reigns would then come back to take out Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns and CM Punk, leading to this triple threat match in the main event of WrestleMania. We had a great triple threat, one of the greatest triple threat matches ever. I talked about how Seth Rollins was in one of the greatest triple threat matches ever with Brock Lesnar and John Cena 10 years prior. CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins put on one of the best triple threat matches in WWE history in the main event of WrestleMania. And it ended with Roman Reigns' wise man turning not only on CM Punk, but on Roman Reigns, ending that 5-year partnership to join Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins not only turned on Roman Reigns in 2014, but now, not only did he turn on Roman Reigns in 2014 when he put the chair in his back to end the Shield, he cashed in on him and stole his moment at WrestleMania 31 to win the WWE Championship and pinning him in the middle of the ring. But now, Seth Rollins takes Roman Reigns' wise man, Paul Heyman, with Paul Heyman hitting a low blow on Roman Reigns and handing the chair to Seth Rollins for Seth Rollins to once again hit Roman Reigns in the back with a steel chair and pin him in the ring 1, 2, 3 to win in the main event of WrestleMania 41. And that's where we stand right now in the rivalry between Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. And history has repeated itself, ladies and gentlemen. Seth Rollins was Mr. Money in the Bank 11 years ago in 2014 after he turned on Roman Reigns. Seth Rollins once again has a career-altering turn on Roman Reigns with the help of his wise man, Paul Heyman, and he is once again Mr. Money in the Bank. When is Roman Reigns coming back? When are we going to get closure on this rivalry between Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns? Is it going to happen at SummerSlam? Is it going to happen early next year? Is it going to happen in the main event of WrestleMania 42 in Las Vegas in the same exact stadium in which Paul Heyman turned on Roman Reigns to join Seth Rollins? That's where I want to see it. I want to see in the main event of WrestleMania 42 the WWE undisputed, not the World Heavyweight Champion, the undisputed WWE Champion Seth frickin' Rollins defending against the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns, and then Roman Reigns finally gets his big win in the main event of WrestleMania against Seth Rollins, not only to get his retribution on Seth Rollins, not only to get his big moment on Seth Rollins, not only to get his retribution and revenge on Paul Heyman, but to win back the title that he never got his rematch for, the undisputed WWE Championship. And maybe that builds the return arc of the tyrant Roman Reigns as the tribal chief and the WWE champion. A lot of stories to be told. What do you guys think in the comments? Do we think we see Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns finally getting their closure at WrestleMania 42? Comment below.